Welcome to Turning Back the Pages, the podcast where children's book authors discuss their favorite childhood books. I'm your host, Allie. Today, author John Martucci is joining me to discuss his favorite childhood book, The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. John A. Martucci has always enjoyed storytelling, music, and theater from a young age. Outside of play acting, he was the everyday creator of adventures for his younger brothers. Now, his love for storytelling, the oceans, and its creatures has culminated into children's book writing. When not writing rhymes and drawing up tales, John is a foot and ankle surgeon practicing in Canton, Georgia. He received an undergraduate degree from Boston College and a doctorate from Temple University. He currently lives in Smyrna, Georgia, with his wife, fellow surgeon, and scuba diver partner, Sam. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Allie. This is a great experience and a great opportunity.
Well, I'm excited you're here. So I have challenged John and myself to recap The Giving Tree in 30 seconds. So, John, are you ready? I'm going to put 30 seconds on the clock.
Yeah.
Okay, on your mark, get set, go.
Ready. Okay. A boy meets a tree. They become friends, and the tree gives everything it has for the boy until the day he dies. That's the story.
Boom! Did it.
Nice.
Awesome. You're I think the first person that has done it in that much time. Everyone always wants to give so much background information, which I just love how different people do it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I will go now. The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein is about a boy and a tree. The boy and the tree loved each other, and they played together. While the boy was young, he would climb up and play and make crowns with the tree's leaves and eat the apples. But as he got older, he didn't come around as much, and he only came around when he needed something: apples for money, branches for a house, trunk for a boat. When he comes back the last time, she has nothing left to give, and he needs nothing. He sits on her stump, and the tree is happy.
That's a more beautiful summary.
I just read it to my 6-year-old a few minutes ago, and she was like, "Was that a sad book?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's kind of a sad, sweet book."
Yeah, and when you were bringing this, when you brought up this idea, and I was thinking about through all the books, we grew up with, and that one came to mind. I was trying to think as a child, what am I thinking about? And the main thing was, these two things, a person and an inanimate object, or I guess a living thing, not a person, are friends, and that's beautiful. But then you bring in all the other real life kind of learning points. So when I start reading that to my kids in the future, it's probably going to start kind of one way in their mind, but if you read it throughout the years, it does change its meaning, which is beautiful. So.
Yeah, I love how children's books grow with us. It's not just in our childhood, but they grow with us and take on more and more meaning, especially the big ones like The Giving Tree. So I'm going to give some background on the book and the author. And if you're up for it, John, I have a little quiz along the way.
Sure.
Okay.
Great.
Shel Silverstein was born on September 25th, 1930 in Chicago, Illinois. His first career goal was, do you know?
I have no idea.
He wanted to be a baseball player.
Wow.
But he said he was no good at it, and he was never a hit with the girls, so he turned to writing and drawing. The closest he ever came to his MLB dream was that he had a big gig at Chicago's Park selling hot dogs to White Sox fans.
Oh, wow. Okay.
His nickname, do you know what his nickname was?
No.
Uncle Shelby. Apparently he wrote a few things under the name Uncle Shelby. I mean, he used it as a nickname. Shel Silverstein's very first children's book was published in 1963. The Giving Tree was published a year later. In an interview published in the Chicago Tribune in 1964, Shel talked about the difficult time he had trying to get the book published. Everybody loved it. They were touched by it. They would read it and cry and say it was beautiful. But one publisher said it was too short. Some thought it was too sad. Others felt the book fell between adult and children's literature and wouldn't be popular. It took Shel 4 years before Ursula Nordstrom, the legendary Harper and Row editor, decided to publish it. She even let him keep the sad ending. Shel remembered, quote, "Because life, has pretty sad endings. You don't have to laugh it up, even if most of my stuff is humorous. Okay, another question. Do you know which song Shell wrote that was sung by Johnny Cash?
I'm just going to say Ring of Fire.
A Boy Named Sue.
Oh, okay.
I had no idea. I learned that this weekend, and it made me laugh. Okay, that was the last one. He wrote many children's books, including Where the Sidewalk Ends, which was one of my favorites. A Light in the Attic, Falling Up, Ronnie Babbitt. And so our book discussion today is, of course, The Giving Tree, and it still remains one of the most well-known and most beloved books. So, John, what made you choose The Giving Tree?
Yeah, when you asked me to think about my favorite childhood books, to be honest, I've probably read a handful in the last 10 to 15 years because it's with nieces and nephews, or, I don't know, some other kids I'm babysitting at some point in my teenage years and college years. That one just stuck out because it was one that was always on our bookshelf. I grew up with 4 brothers, and, we had a few standouts, and that one was always pulled off the shelf more than, once or twice in a month. And it stood out because even though there was no beautiful, colorful drawings that just attract your eye, you sit there listening to the words and you're focusing more on what is being said rather than what the page has on it. And so I just remember it being a recurring book growing up, among others. But that's the main reason it just stands out. There was something about it that Shel Silverstein got right, and it's its timeless kind of character. Yeah,
it does have a timelessness to it. What is your first memory reading the book? Do you remember, or who read it to you?
It's hard to say. It was probably when my mom was reading it.
Yeah.
To me at some point. It's really hard to say, but we probably read it so many times that they all just blend together.
Yeah, definitely. You touched on it already, but how has reading it changed for you through the years?
Reading it has changed, and just like the part we touched on at the beginning, where when I was little, it was listening. It was one of those few books where it was more about listening to the words and looking at the pictures. But when I've read it to kids over the last years, it's made me think probably more than they think. And I don't know if I've ever had those experiences with children where I've been able to kind of impart wisdom on them, because it's usually been like I said, a child I babysat or a niece or a nephew, and I don't want to have those deep conversations, but just kind of observe that the story is beautiful and friendship is great. But it definitely opens up more adult conversations for sure, and it kind of brings up the theme of like the world it can be a sad place, and at the end of the day, we all just are trying to take care of ourselves, and sometimes it means taking from someone else and not realizing the impact on other people.
I remember people talking about how it was sad when I was a child, and I got it, but then the older I've gotten and the more life experience, I'm like, yeah, it is. It's really sad. It's really sweet. And I think it's really interesting how at the beginning of the book and the end of the book, they're together. And that's what always mattered to the tree. And it seemed like it took the boy so long to realize, his whole life, to realize that he was so happy when he didn't need anything but her presence. And then at the end, he needed nothing but her presence.
Yeah, exactly.
What themes stood out to you as a child, and do those same themes stand out to you today, or how has that changed?
I think friendship for sure, and just having that person you confide in or can trust. And I think when I was little, it maybe played on the role of an imaginary friend and what that plays for younger kids too. And also, I'm a lover of nature and the outdoors and everything, so that's probably one of the reasons why it kind of sat well with me. It was just nice to see someone outside doing something, and it didn't bring in a lot of extra characters, so you just got to focus on this one conversation. So those are the main themes as a child. As I can, it's hard because you're thinking about these memories that all blend together, but why did that book stick with me? And it's probably because it was just a good story of two individuals that appreciated each other, or at least one that showed unconditional love for the other.
Right. I know there are only two to choose from, but who's your favorite character?
Who's my favorite character?
Yes.
Oh, definitely the tree.
The tree. Yes, same.
Yeah. I think even as a child, I had this vague memory of where the boy, the man, the old man was kind of a bad guy.
Yeah.
But I guess, I don't know, I'm trying to go back in my brain somewhere, but it probably didn't make a lot of sense why at that point.
Yeah.
But now you understand, so.
Yeah. So do you think the boy is still, do you still think he's a bad guy, or do you feel that there's more nuance there?
I don't, because I feel like in parts of my life, I know exactly what the boy, the older man is thinking.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, even if it's not like a singular person or entity that you have that relationship with, where I guess I can understand why he was in those places at those times. You become older and you think about how important it is to provide for a family and whatever that might take, and you start thinking about, I think it mainly all revolves around family, taking care of your family, protecting, providing, and trying to make a good future for them. Mm-hmm. So I can understand the boy's or the man's motivation.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting that I don't know how many words is are in The Giving Tree, but under 500, and there could be so much nuance, and it can change so much with so few words. It's just so timeless. Were you an avid reader as a child?
Yes, probably mainly through grade school.
Yeah.
The one series I think I read every single book on the shelf was Agatha Christie, when I could really pick up reading, and found that really fascinating. And then I was at the age where Harry Potter, I feel like I grew with Harry Potter. So I read all of those, and then once I got into high school, it was more of Lord of the Rings. And then some of the other books in between, I dabbled in the Hardy Boys series. And they're going to blank, but if you put them in front of me, I would say, yes, I've read that. There's a bunch of other classics.
Oh, yeah.
That I probably read.
Turning Back the Pages is sponsored by, still no ads. But if you're enjoying the show, would you mind sharing it with a friend? You can share on social media, or just text a friend, or tell your car mechanic or grocer as you're paying them, or your neighbor that always wants to chat right as your toddler's having a meltdown. All valid options. And hey, thanks.
But now it's more of I have this mixed relationship with literature where I'll pick up a book every once in a while to get a departure from medical literature, try to go somewhere else for a while. Yeah. And it'll usually be a well-recommended book, or unfortunately it'll be we watch a show and Netflix says this is based on this book. So we'll go back and read the book. And it's so much better. Yeah. But that's how my relationship with reading has changed over the years.
I think that I went through post college and those first few years of working and stuff like that I did not read that much until I was as a child, and then for a long time didn't, and then once I started having children and reading to them, and stories came alive to me again. And I feel like the last few years I have very much been back into reading a lot more. Though I still read more children's books than I do adult books at this point.
Yeah, I bet. That's what I'm looking forward to. We're expecting our first child in a few months.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. So, this has all come at a really exciting time for me. And aside from reading with my nieces and nephew, I'm really excited to read to her, and then I'll pick a few from my childhood to put on the shelf. But there are so many children's books nowadays. There's just not enough time in the world to read all the good ones.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, there's some really, really fantastic books. Both of my girls are big readers. They're 6 and almost 3, and they love to hear a story. Would little John be surprised that you wrote a book?
Wrote a book. No, I don't think he'd be surprised, because I always had this interest in theater and memorizing lines and stuff and creating characters. But on the side, I would, my brothers and I would have these different kind of, play situations where you're either in a house, or you're adventurers in the backyard, or you're narrating some like incredible football game. And I think all of those impulses probably were meant to be culminated in something like this, a little fun story. So I don't think he'd be surprised.
Let's talk about your book. Your book is called Peanut and Jelly, The Search for Butter. And its release date is really soon, July 30th?
Yes, July 30th. Amazon gotten ahead of the game, of course, and shipped it all out. But
oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, but our publisher, Thin Book, is selling it July 30th. And I think Barnes & Noble also has it starting in the first week of August. So
great. So tell me about it.
So it's about 2 sea animals, Peanut and Jelly, who are friends along the shore, and they come across a distressed sea turtle who's lost her baby. So all the baby sea turtles have made their way to the water, and she's lost one. And they're going to search for her, and maybe they'll find her and become the greatest trio of all time, Peanut Butter and Jelly. I've always been really, really interested in the oceans and marine life, and I dabbled in the idea of becoming a marine biologist. And the unfortunate thing is, adulthood makes you realize there are certain professions that you're concerned there might not be financial stability from. And so you tell yourself in your mind, I should consider this, continue the interest as a hobby, but then think of other things. I think that's where you take that transition from being childhood-like to adulthood. But I managed to kind of bring it back in this book, and it's just a sweet little story that I hope to turn into more of a series where Peanut Butter and Jelly can go on adventures together. And it's all to kind of revolve around the importance of ocean conservation, given that the oceans cover more of our planet, our lands do. And those animals, a lot of them have been here longer than we have. So just appreciating our world and through a nice little story. And it's in partnership with the Georgia Aquarium, which is the biggest aquarium in the United States. It's
such a great aquarium, Yeah,
it's amazing. So, I'm still dazzled by it, and I've been a few times, and it never gets old sitting in the room with the whale sharks, just kind of looking at these amazing animals. But a portion of the proceeds go to their conservation efforts, their outreach projects, not just sea turtle conservation, but other things like cleaning up the oceans and protecting endangered species and all that. So
I love that. We went to the Georgia Aquarium back in 2020, 1 month before COVID hit.
Oh, wow.
Pretty sure we got COVID from that weekend there. But yes, my animal love is penguins, as I have a penguin on my
Oh, nice. Well, that's a nice one.
Oh, thank you. Welcome to Podcasting 101 with Allie. It took me until editing this episode to realize that y'all who have never seen me in person do not know that I'm referring to a penguin tattoo on my forearm. So now you know. And I have learned a very important podcasting lesson. Podcasts are not visual arts. I almost got the one that was at the Georgia Aquarium and changed to the last minute to this one, but yeah, I cried. when meeting the penguins. I'm a big fan of the aquarium. So I was reading on your website a little bit of that, and I think that's so cool. And I think that's, such an important message. My girls are very much in their environmentalist stage. They're watching all the PBS Kids, National Geographic Kids type shows, and they're very much like, we shall not litter, we shall not, making all of those things. And I love it. Right now, my oldest daughter wants to be a cat rescuer when she grows up, and
love it.
And so
that's perfect.
There is a hope of like, even if you are not a cat rescuer when you grow up, that taking care of this world, I think, is very important, and caring for not only the people but the environment and the place that we live for such a time. Right. Who do you hope reads your book?
I'm a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan. And I'm from Kansas City originally.
Okay.
So I hope Patrick Mahomes reads it with his kids.
Well, I'm sure he listens to this podcast. So, Patrick, can you please read this?
Yes, please, Patrick. And then if you want to hand it off to Travis, so you can read it with Taylor Swift.
And there we go. both of our my podcast, yours book just goes through the roof right there.
We'll have our own Eras tour.
Yes. That would be awesome. What do you hope readers take away from the book?
I just want to emphasize friendship. The ocean conservation part is something that I want to be subtle, but play into a child's mind. But it's really emphasizing friendship and doing something for someone that you may even not even know them very well, but you care about them because they're another individual. So that's the main thing.
All right. Well, is there anything else you want to share about your book, or last thoughts on The Giving Tree or anything?
No, I mean, honestly, this conversation, it's gotten me really excited just about the power of a children's book beyond just the simple pictures and words. They really are kind of timeless pieces. At least some of them are. Shel Silverstein did a good job of that. And so I'm going to go back and read that one in a few months to my daughter, even if she can't really understand the words.
Yeah.
And I just hope to contribute to the children's literature as much as I can and provide a few more that are sweet and fun and emphasize some maybe subtle, serious values. But people can, they can find it on Google, but the easiest place to kind of find all the information is on the website at pbjfriends.com.
pbjfriends.com. Well, I know that we will be reading it whenever it comes out. My girls will love it, I'm quite sure. And I hope to see more books from you in the future.
Yeah. You just let me know your daughter's names, and I'll send you guys a book.
Oh yeah, thank you.
And send it all over. Oh. But I really appreciate you doing this for me. This has been fun, and like I said, aside from the publicity for the book, it's been super exciting to revisit kind of what children's books mean. Yeah,
and that's the purpose of the podcast, is just looking back at the stories that have formed us, because no one that I've talked to has been like, meh, I don't know, books or whatever. Right. We're all like, good. The books formed us, whether this is our full-time job or is this something we did on the side. So books and words have power and longevity.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for joining me in this episode of Turning Back the Pages. If you have any author suggestions, please feel free to email me at whatallywrites@gmail.com. You can follow the show on Instagram or Twitter at What Allie Writes. Allie is ALLY, and don't forget to subscribe.